Hey everybody, welcome back to Texas Prepper Projects. If you're new to the channel, thank you for joining us. And if you are returning, thanks for coming back. If you've seen some of my other videos, you'll notice I've got Amazon affiliate links down at the bottom. On those affiliate links, we obviously get commissions on those items, and that's how a lot of big YouTube preppers make a bunch of money. I want to reassure everyone that if I put something in the description, it's something that I own or I have supreme confidence in. And in most cases, I actually own it. I want you to know that I'm not just shilling a bunch of stuff to make a buck. I want you to understand why I chose what I chose and for what reasons, and to know that I actually have it in my possession and have bought it with my own money. So today I'm going to go through some of my favorite items and show you that I have them and why I bought them, and talk about why I chose them for a particular reason. You can hop around. I'll put shortcuts down in the description because this is going to be a long video covering a bunch of stuff. So first, let's talk about flashlights. I have very strong opinions about flashlights, and I have some very particular technical reasons for why I buy what I buy, and I have some personal preferences along the way. Number one, I hate multi-mode flashlights. They just annoy me. I hate having to click a bunch of buttons and scroll through 4 or 5 different modes to get the thing to turn on. Drives me up the wall. It's just a personal thing that drives me bonkers. So all of my flashlights are turn it on, turn it off. Just a personal preference. I understand that there are advantages. I'll get to that in a second. Just a personal thing. So all of mine, turn them on, turn them off. Number two, I don't like rechargeable flashlights, and it's for sort of a specific reason. Most rechargeable flashlights that I have seen are really, really bright and have a really, really short runtime in the grand scheme of things. And you think, okay, that's fine. The battery is free because I'm just recharging it. I'm not throwing away D-cell batteries. But I don't see the purpose of having a 600 lumen flashlight that runs for 45 minutes unless it's mounted to a weapon. That's an exception. So I don't like rechargeable flashlights, and also in an emergency situation, a power down situation, I would rather have a box of C or D cells to reload my flashlight as opposed to burning up solar power or something like that to recharge a USB-C. Personal opinion, I can see pros and cons to each. That's where I am personally at with it. I like regular C's, D's, AA alkaline batteries. On the brightness aspect, you have to look really, 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 really close at the specifications of brightness, which is measured in lumens, and runtime. I mentioned weapon lights a little while ago. I have a 500 or 600 lumen light on one of my guns that has a runtime of about 45 minutes. It runs on one CR123 battery, and it's about this big. That is a very specific situation. What I have found is this, in my opinion, the sweet spot is between 150 to 200 lumens, thereabouts, is about bright enough for me to do general purpose things while still having reasonable runtime. Another quirk is when you're selecting an analog flashlight, make sure it has 3 cells, 3 AA's, 3 C's, 3 D's, whatever. And that's a function of how LEDs work. They need at least 4 volts to function. So if you have 2 cells, that's only 3 volts, they use a step up to get to 4 volts, and it makes the battery runtime go down. So the runtime difference for the exact same flashlight between 2 cells and 3 cells will be significantly greater. Okay, so let's see what I have picked. Number one, this is Prepper Wife Stephanie's flashlight. This is a Dorcy. This is 55 lumens and runs on 3 AA batteries. These are between $10 and $15. You can sometimes find them at Walmart. You can sometimes find them at Academy, or I've got a link to them down below. So 55 lumens is not a whole lot, but this lets her find her way in the dark when the cats are being annoying. We can go chase them down. It's just enough to maneuver in the evening. I like the rubberized handle. It's durable. It's actually waterproof and floats. So this is your junk drawer flashlight. For $10, this is a great, great, great value. Number 2, this is a 3 C-cell LED maglight. It looks like the 2 AA's that they've made for 50 years. You just turn the head, turn on, and this I keep in my car. The price on these, granted, has gone up tremendously in the last couple of years. I think this is $30 or $40 now, but it'll last forever. Maglights are all made in the USA. And again, this is that sweet spot of 160, 170 lumens to something like 60 hours of runtime. So this one I keep in my car. The advantage to the C cells, it's a little bit thinner in diameter, so it's easier for Stephanie to hold than my D cell. So this is my car flashlight. It's a maglite. They're indestructible. It's got just that sweet middle point of brightness to runtime. So there's my car light. I have slept with a big maglite under my bed since 1999. When I lived in Florida and Hurricane Irene hit and we lost power where I was living, and I couldn't find my way out of my own bedroom because we had hurricane panels set up that were blocking out the light from the windows. Even though it was broad daylight, I couldn't find my way out of my own bedroom. So ever since then, I have slept with a maglite underneath my bed. This is a 3 D-cell LED maglite, old school. Push the button and it turns on, push the button and it turns off. The other advantage, quite frankly, of having a big flashlight is if something goes bump in the night, I have a big, heavy object to clunk them with, as opposed to carrying my gun around. Very durable. Again, got that sweet spot of about 175 lumens thereabouts. Runtime is like 80 hours. So this is my workhorse. I've had this one for a couple of years. I'll look it up. The one downside to maglights, and particularly big maglights, is you got to check your batteries on them. They will occasionally corrode and rot out, and there's no getting them out of them. My original 4 C-cell maglite that rode under my bed for like 15 years finally rotted out because I was not diligent about checking the batteries on them, and it corroded out, and so I moved up to LED. You'll see this black tape I have around the middle. This is one downside to maglights that I discovered during the Texas breeze. Since they're aluminum, and aluminum conducts heat and cold really well, the body of this flashlight got really cold when it was 50 degrees inside my house, and it was uncomfortable to hold. So this is actually tennis racket grip tape that I put around the handle, the body of the unit, to insulate it in case I have to use this in the cold. Also, if they get wet, they're a little slippery. I mean, they are textured, but they're a little slippery if they get real wet and you're not wearing gloves. So this just gives me a little extra grip. So this is my under the bed flashlight. It's been in the bed for years and it will stay there for years. I'll give some honorable mention to headlights. I know headlights are a big thing. I will call a headlight a supplement to emergency lighting, not a primary. My big issue with this is the runtime. This runs on 3 AAA batteries, so it's got like 3 or 4 hours of runtime. They are super handy for working breakers and changing tires and things like that, because you get to have your hands free, so check. but the battery runtime being as low as it is bothers me a little bit. And this one has got the multiple brightness settings and this strobe. So I'm not necessarily going to say I'm going to recommend this yet, but I'm getting to play with this and sort of seeing how I like it. But for my primary emergency flashlights, these are my personal 3 picks, and there are links down below. Maglight makes about 500 different models, and you have to look very specifically if you want these. They make versions of these that are multi-mode. You push the button once and it goes into low. You push the button twice, it goes into medium. You push the button again, it goes into high, etc., etc. I want to just click it and turn it on. That's my personal preference. But if you start shopping for Maglights, read the specs and descriptions very, very, very carefully to make sure you get the configuration that you want. Okay, let's hit the next one. Flashlight. All right, turn back on. This is the Dorcy. It's about 55 lumens. Okay, turn off. And this is the Maglight. That's about 180. So we all live on our cell phones. Our cell phones are our primary mode of entertainment and communications for pretty much every situation. I strongly believe that this is a must-have for everybody who owns a cell phone. This is an Anker USB battery pack. They make 1,000 different versions of this, some with wireless charging and various different capacities. I'm really not interested in that. This is a bare bones, this is a 10,000 milliamp USB charger, and these are about 20 bucks, depending upon if you catch them on sale. 10,000 milliamps will get you about 2 charges, depending upon what phone you have. Phone's about 5,000 milliamp battery, so about 2 charges on us. They are super thin, very, very, very small. This version has USB-A, USB-B, and USB-C on it. I carry this around in my backpack, basically everywhere that I go. They are just incredibly handy. It's sort of common practice. I've had some medical issues in the last couple of years, and when we have headed to minor emergency or something like that, we grab this because there's never an outlet nearby when you're sitting in the waiting room. Hi, Prepper Cat George. My one complaint is the cords that they come with are kind of crappy. I actually really like these little 6-inch short cords, and you can order them in like a pack of 5. So I have a USB-B and a USB-C cord, so I can get whatever phone I need basically, and I keep it in the little bag. Bye, George. $20. 20 bucks. Highly, 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 highly recommended. You know, we just missed Christmas season. These are great white elephant presents to give out for department Christmas parties. And every year, my department, I give out one of these, and everybody oohs and ahs over them because usually there's like a $25 purchase limit. 20 bucks. Highly, 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 highly recommended. If you own a cell phone, buy one of these. And I think that 10,000 milliamps is really kind of the minimum. They do make some 5s, which is basically like 1 recharge, but 2 charges for $20, totally worth it. Let's talk about water storage. This is my favorite water storage. It is not necessarily the least expensive way to store water anymore since these have gone up in price, but it is my favorite way because I think it's the most convenient. I like that it is vertical and the spout, we'll show you in just a second. So this is the infamous 7-gallon Aquatainer. And the best place to buy them is at Walmart. They're about 20 bucks. Academy does have them. I think they're about the same there. Or you can get them on Amazon at the link below. I think they're about 30 some odd dollars now. So these have gone up in price. Understand if you don't want to use the affiliate link, Walmart or Academy. Pepper Cat George. Walmart or Academy will have them for less money. So I think that this is the sort of the right form factor. Remember, water weighs like 8 pounds per gallon. So this thing weighs 50 something pounds. I'm not a real big guy. This is kind of the limit that I can pick up. And this is just the limit that Stephanie can pick up. They are designed to stack, but I've seen multiple horror stories about them collapsing when you stack them. So I would not recommend it. Why I think these are so cool is, like I said, you've got it's sort of the right form factor. You've got some height, and they have this nifty built-in spout. So you take the spout out, and you turn it around. You screw it back into the lid. Screw the lid back on the top. And there you are. This is the air release up at the top. And now you've got your water spout. So I have 2 of these filled at all times. And then behind me, I have my water filter, and I have the new version of this that I believe is 6 gallons that Academy has. They didn't have this version. And I'll show you why I don't like it. Oh, this is the Igloo brand. And since it's tall and skinny, it doesn't have a spout for one thing. And you can't lay it on its side because it'll just flop over. So this is a vessel for transporting water, but not for actually using it. Not the way that the Reliance is with the spout built into it. So you've got some usability in there that this does not have that the Reliance does. I also see people talking about using those 5-gallon circular jugs from office water coolers. Those are fairly inexpensive, but they're very awkward. They don't have a good handle. Some of them, most of them, don't have a good handle on them to be able to pick it up and pour it. And I know that they do make a pump that goes into the top that you pump with your hand, and it's got a little nozzle, it squirts out to get the water back out of them. But because they have that long shape like a wine bottle, and that nozzle on the top, or that spout on the top, they're just a weird shape. They don't store real well, in my opinion. So when you're thinking about water storage, think about not just what you're gonna store it in, but how you're gonna get that water back out of that storage container. You know, 55-gallon drum is what we all want to have, but getting the water out of that drum can be a challenge. So if you take into consideration size and weight and shape and storability and usability, I keep coming back to this. I think that this has solved all of those problems in one nice, neat, relatively inexpensive package. I can move it around barely. You know, I can pick it up, Stephanie can pick it up. We've got a nice spout, it's got a nice shape. It fits in the bottom of my pantry just right. So this has been my favorite for years. I've had at least one of these filled at all times since 2004. I've never had a problem with them splitting or breaking. I don't stack them. I think this is a great way to go. Here is my beloved electric blanket. This has got a really, really, really nice liner here on the back, this sort of fake wool, and this nice microfiber top. And that's what the controller looks like. And this thing draws 100 watts. That is very doable on solar or battery or jackery or whatever. That's a very low current draw at the grand scheme of things. And it's not going to run all the time. It's going to turn on and off and on and off. So I really wish I could have run my electric blanket during the freeze. I would have just turned it on for an hour or two, thrown another blanket on top, got nice and hot and toasty, turn it off, and made it through the night. So I think this is $60 or $70, money well spent, and certainly, you know, you're not going to run a space heater on solar or a jackery, but for 100 watts, you can certainly run this. This one is also really personal for me. I've got experience with this one. This is a SOL emergency heat sheets space blanket. So many years ago, I had given one of these to a friend who was a at-home nurse, and in December she drove through a low water crossing that was more full than she thought it was, and her car shorted out in the bottom of it, and she was only wearing her scrubs, and it was 40-50 degrees outside, so she was soaking wet in the middle of nowhere, you know, an hour or two from nothing. Called the towing company. It was going to be a couple of hours before they came to get her, and she wrapped up in this thing and kept herself warm while she was waiting for the tow truck driver to show up. She was a nurse, as I said, and she said this thing saved her from hypothermia. I don't know if she would have died if she'd been out there that long, but certainly this thing put her in a much better situation than she would have been without it. What makes this different in a couple of different ways than the 99-cent ones? Number one, it's bigger. The dollar ones that you get in the multi-pack here on Amazon, you get from Walmart, are relatively small. If you look at the measurements, they're not real big. This is bigger, and this is also more durable. This is kind of laminated on one side. The really cheap space blankets, like if you breathe on them, they come apart. They're just not durable at all. It's like a sheet of tissue paper. So these are laminated, so they're much more durable, and they're bigger. Obviously, you can see how tiny this is. Okay, they are not big. They're about $6. They're about $6. Is your life worth $6? Is the life of your family member worth $6? These are so small and so cheap, there is just no reason why you should not have at least one of these in every car, preferably more if you've got a big family. They do actually make bigger ones of these for like $2 more, that it's for two people to kind of cuddle up and throw it over the top of. That's, you know, your preference. I would personally have one of these for each family member who routinely rides in the car. So that way you can have your own. You don't have to kind of share if you don't want to. Strongly recommend. I've got a half a dozen of these spread around my various kits. This thing will save your life for $6. This will save your life. Strongly recommend that you buy one of these for every single person in your family. This is a serious deal. You know, I was just reading about some of the blizzard situations up north a couple of weeks ago where people were trapped in their car for a day or two. There was a story about the guy who broke into a school so he could bring some elderly people who were stuck in their cars into school and get warm. How much would those people have paid for a space blanket in the back of their car that takes up no space? Absolutely no space. Highly recommended SOL heat sheet space blanket. So basically every power pack out there, Jackery or Blue Eddy or Delta Pro, whatever, has a 12-volt cigarette socket on it. So that makes this product really fun and easy. This is a 12-volt rope light. Plugs into a cigarette lighter. Ta-da! Just like Christmas lights. Now, the advantage to this over Christmas lights is since they're running on 12 volts, there's no up converter, you don't have any transformer losses. We used this during the freeze, put this in our hallway, and ran it like it was movie theater lights. It kept the light low so we weren't shining out the window and gave us just enough light to be able to maneuver around. Great for RVing, camping, etc. If you have a little battery pack like this, then it makes it super easy and convenient to have some long, low, stretchy pathway lights. The current draw is very low. I think I measured it at under an amp, if I remember correctly. So you'll get nice long runtime out of this. Really neat product. Prepper Wife Stephanie talked about this in the interview with the Prepper Wife video about how much she liked this. So relatively inexpensive and great addition to any emergency power pack. Here we are in Prepper Garage. And that's my rope light. Not bad. It lights up this entire garage enough that I can navigate in here. Not a bad gig for 30 bucks and 800 milliamps, under an amp worth of draw. Really nice. I really like this. I'm about to commit Prepper heresy and say something very, very, very controversial. I don't like paracord. Wow. I just, you know, it's cheap, but it's bulky, it's squishy, it stretches when you put it under tension. I don't like it. I think it's really overrated in a lot of ways. Okay, here we go. Here comes the hate mail. You know, there's this theory that, you know, you take it apart and you pull out the inner strands and, you know, now you've got, you know, 7 times as much cordage as you did. Okay, bushcrafting, maybe. How about a better idea? This is braided mason line from Home Depot, and it's got a breaking strength of like 200 or 300 pounds all by itself. And it comes in a spool about that big, that's like 500 feet for about $10. I think the individual paracord strands are only rated to like 50 something pounds. And the mason line is not that much bigger than the inner strands of the paracord. Says very specifically, braided mason line, not twisted. The braided stuff is a lot stronger. I use the braided for my ham radio stuff because it's smooth. And so when I toss it over a tree, it slides through the bark. The twisted stuff tends to get snagged in the bark. So this is my favorite cordage, is braided mason line from Home Depot. I have not found a source on Amazon for it that is decent. I bought some stuff that was supposed to be braided and it showed up and it was not. That's what you get on Amazon. My second favorite line is accessory cord. It's sometimes called 325 cord as opposed to 550 cord, but it's not quite the same thing. There is a difference between 325 and accessory cord. I'm trying to kind of pin down a good vendor for it. I typically will buy this at REI. They've got it over by their tent stake stuff. It's a little bit thinner, obviously, than paracord, but for some reason it's denser. It doesn't stretch the same way that paracord does. It still has a breaking strength of 300 something pounds. So if for a kit where I'm going to be tying and untying something, it's not going to be like a fixed structure. You know, it knots and it unknots really well. Whereas the braided line, because it's so small, it's kind of hard to untie. But it's so cheap, you just cut it and move on. So I also never buy black. I don't understand what the obsession with black is. Like, this is an emergency kit. I want people to see me and find me and take me home. So I always buy it in hot pink or bright orange, you know, it's traffic cone orange. So REI has this in multiple colors, or you can find this on Amazon on some of the links that I posted for accessory cord or 325 cord. It's certainly strong enough for anything the normal person's going to do. It's about the same price as paracord, maybe a little more expensive because it's not as popular, but because it's smaller, you can fit more in a pack. Obviously with the braided mason line, you can fit a whole ton in a small space, particularly if you buy it on that roll from Home Depot. But these two are my favorite lines, my favorite cordages, and I strongly prefer these over paracord. So let's talk cooking. This is a gas 1 camping stove. And I selected this because it has some very interesting features. This is a dual fuel camping stove that will run on these little butane canisters, or will also run on propane. It has this little adapter hose that goes up inside here and then converts to either a mini tank. Yeah, converts to a mini tank there. So since I have a barbecue grill outside that runs on propane, I have 2 propane tanks at all times. This gives me a ton of flexibility. If for some reason I run out of these, I have multiple of these and two 20-pounders. So no matter what your shortage or your emergency is, the likelihood that you'll find one of these 2 to get you back up and running. Super convenient. And voila. Super simple, puts out a ton of heat. The canisters last 3 or 4 hours. I've got a half a dozen of them. We have used this out camping a couple of times. So really simple, really convenient, very inexpensive, and I like the multiple fuel ability. So I think they're about 40 bucks. This is a great emergency item to have at home. One of the other items that's listed that would just be kind of too hard to shoot is the Bestech Pure Sine inverter. It was the first pure sine inverter I'd ever bought. Reviews were pretty good. I watched some demo videos on it, seemed to be okay. Price is all right. The 2 downsides to it, the 500 watt, it's 500 watts. There is no surge capacity. I learned that when I was trying to use it to power my chest freezer. So it's 500 watts, it's 500 watts, it's 500 watts. That was a little bit of a bummer. One of the other things that I didn't know I was missing until I got my Gandale was the integrated voltmeter, watt meter built into the front. That was really neat. In some of my older videos about my power outage up over here somewhere, it was nice to watch my chest freezer plugged into my Gandale and watch the wattage draw, the current draw go up and down as the freezer was cycling up and down. So I think that the Gandales are probably better, but they're a little bit bigger. They're in the 1,000 watt range, 100 some odd-ish dollars. So I think that they've got some better features and they've got more surge capacity. But if you're looking for something very inexpensive just to run your electric blanket and some very basic utilities, the Bestech's pretty good. Funny enough, you know, I had an old Coleman inverter during the freeze and it was really old, and I was trying to run my electric blanket on it and it wouldn't kick on. My electric blanket required a pure sine wave inverter because of the temperature controller or something like that. Go figure. And so I froze my rear off because I didn't want to spend 60 bucks on a pure sine inverter. Go figure. The prices are so cheap now, there is no reason not to have a pure sine inverter. So Bestech is kind of on the lower end of the scale. The Gandales, I think, have better features for a couple of more dollars. I hope that this was helpful and useful. I hope that you learned a little bit about why I choose things and what the reasons for, my rationales for. If you got any questions or comments, go ahead and drop them down below. And if you have enjoyed this, please remember to give me a like and a subscribe and a thumbs up. It really helps out. And check out the links below. And we'll see you on the next one.